London, England, 2016. I was in my early 20s, living in London while studying English. It was one of those exciting periods in life where you feel completely free. I had my own rhythm, classes during the day, parties at night, and long walks through the city in between. The public transport was reliable and ran at all hours. Compared to my home country, London felt like a safe place, a place where nothing really bad could happen. But all of that changed one night, and I've never been the same since. That night, I had gone out partying with a friend, and it was already late. When we said goodbye at the train station, we each had to take a different bus to get home, so I put on my headphones and started walking alone to my stop. That's when I saw him. A tall man dressed in a long white robe and a traditional West African-style hat. He walked up to me and said something. I ignored him at first, pretending not to hear, not wanting to be rude, but also not wanting to talk to a stranger so late at night. But he kept talking. I finally took off my headphones, and that's when he said something that made my stomach drop. "I know you. I know. I know who you are." I froze. My heart started beating faster, and I immediately lied, hoping to throw him off. I said, "Sorry, I don't speak English, only Spanish. Perdón." But he didn't stop. His behavior became increasingly strange. He wasn't just curious or confused. He was intense, focused, and I was starting to get scared. Then, thank God, the bus arrived, a big red double-decker. I rushed on, thinking I was safe, but just as I looked back, I saw him get on too. I went straight up to the top deck and sat in the very back, hoping to put as much distance between us as possible. But moments later he followed. My chest tightened. I stood up calmly and went back downstairs, thinking maybe I could lose him. But he followed me again, and this time, he sat right next to me. That's when I knew this wasn't random. He was following me. I was too new to the country to know what to do. I didn't realize I could go to the driver or call someone. I just kept thinking. And that's when it hit me. The bus stop near my house was dark and completely empty at that hour. If I got off there, he could easily do something to me, and no one would be around to help. So I came up with a plan. I pressed the stop button and stood up like it was my stop. He stood up too. My heart sank. He was clearly planning to follow me off the bus. At the last second, I stayed on while the doors closed. But he stayed too. I felt trapped. Then I remembered something. A fast food place one stop before my house that stayed open 24/7. It was usually packed with drunk people from the clubs. That was my best shot. So I pressed the button again and actually got off this time. As soon as I touched the pavement, I ran straight to the restaurant. I turned my head. He was behind me, walking fast, not running, but keeping pace. He was definitely following. I burst into the restaurant, which was thankfully crowded. For the first time in minutes, I felt like I could breathe. But when I looked out through the glass, there he was, standing outside, staring at me, not moving. That's when I realized this wasn't just paranoia. He was really following me, and he wasn't going to stop. I waited in line. My throat was tight, my hands shaking. When I got to the register, I managed to whisper, "There's a man following me. He's outside." The cashier's face changed immediately. He called the cook, and they quickly came up with a plan. They told me to wait near the front entrance while they went out the back to confront him. I nodded, grateful, but then something didn't feel right. Why was I standing alone at the front while they went around back? What if he came up to me before they got to him? I hesitated, then stepped outside, just for a second, to see what was happening. That's when he appeared. He had been hiding behind a streetlight. I don't know how he knew, but he timed it perfectly. He lunged toward me, trying to grab me. I screamed. And just then, thank God, the cashier, the cook, and some other workers from the restaurant came running. The man froze, panicked, and took off running. They chased after him down the street. I just stood there, shaking, unable to move. No, tears were pouring down my face. A woman who had been inside came out and handed me a bottle of water. She and her friends stayed with me and eventually walked me all the way home. That night, strangers saved me. People I didn't know stood up for me like family. And from that moment on, I've never taken a night bus again. I only ride Uber now, and every time I see a man in a white robe on the subway, I can't help but wonder if it's him. I was there, and I survived to tell. Six years ago, in 2019, my husband and I decided to go to Yosemite. We wanted to spend our honeymoon somewhere peaceful, far away from everything. A place where we could forget about everyday life, surrounded by nature, trees, silence. And that was our first big mistake. I remember it so clearly. Those first few days were perfect. Long walks through the forest, cold mornings, the crunch of leaves under our feet. Absolute peace. The starlight, the cool nights with our dogs curled up in the tent. A dream, or so we thought, until she showed up. It was our fourth day. We were playing cards under a tree, completely relaxed. And then, out of nowhere, her. A woman. Strange. Unsettling. She approached the edge of our campsite and, in a soft, almost hypnotic voice, she asked, "Can I pet your dogs?" The dogs hadn't noticed her before. They didn't even react until she was right there. But the moment they saw her, they changed. They grew nervous, their bodies tense, tails low. There was something wrong about her. Something that didn't belong. And my husband, being the kind soul he is, politely said no. She didn't say anything else. She just stood there, completely still, like she was watching something only she could see. Her eyes were empty, distant. She didn't move, didn't even seem to breathe normally. She just lingered there, trapped in a silence that only deepened my fear. After what felt like an eternity, she slowly turned around and vanished into the trees. We didn't see her again, but from that night on, everything changed. That night, inside the tent, I started hearing noises. Footsteps, branches snapping, something moving in the dark, just outside the campsite. My husband was fast asleep and didn't wake up. I didn't want to disturb him. I told myself it was probably animals, raccoons, something normal. But the feeling of being watched never left me. The next night was worse. 3 a.m. I woke up suddenly, that tightness in my chest, like something was lurking, like the trees themselves were staring at us. I didn't want to bother my husband, so I stepped out of the tent. I walked a few meters into the trees to take care of a natural need. But I wasn't alone. There was a laugh, a soft, mocking laugh, low and quiet, like someone was toying with me. I froze. The air grew thick, heavy, and the shadows seemed to move on their own. My body wouldn't react. My legs wouldn't move. I could only turn and run back to the tent. I woke my husband, gasping, nearly breathless, and told him what had happened. He stepped out, half believing me, and shouted into the darkness, "I know you're out there. Come out." But there was no reply, just silence. He tried to convince me it was all in my head, maybe a wild animal, but something inside me knew it wasn't. Something told me that if we stayed one more night, something terrible would happen. I begged him to leave early. I didn't feel safe anymore. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. Finally, we decided to leave, but not before taking one last walk, one last attempt to enjoy what was left of the place. The feeling of being watched never left me that day. Every shadow, every noise, every corner of the forest seemed to be hiding something, or someone. We came back home, relieved. At least I thought the fear would stay behind, that it would all just become a distant memory. But a week later, during dinner with our family, we decided to show them the pictures, the breathtaking views, the landscapes, the sunrises. Everything looked so perfect, until we came across one photo in particular. It was an image of me, standing with my back to the camera, looking at a lake. My husband had taken it without me knowing, and when I saw it, my blood ran cold. In the background, between the trees, there was a figure, a pale face, barely visible, peeking out from behind a trunk. My instincts told me it was her, the woman, the same one who had shown up on that first day, the one who never spoke again, but never left either. The worst part came when I decided to investigate. I called Yosemite's administration, looking for answers. The voice on the other end was calm, serious, like he'd heard this before. She's a woman several visitors have seen, mostly in the more remote areas of the park. She tends to approach campers, asking about their belongings, sometimes even stealing them. People say she appears in photos, like a shadow that slips into the background, but no one ever finds her when they go looking. No one knows where she lives. We only know she's out there watching, waiting. I don't know what she was. I don't know what she wanted. But what I do know is, we're not safe. She's still there, in the forest, watching, waiting. And even though I'm here, even though I survived, every shadow, every snap of a twig, reminds me that I haven't left her behind. She's still following me. But I'm alive, and I survived to tell. For 5 years, I lived trapped in a nightmare I couldn't escape. It all began with my first serious boyfriend. I was young, naive. He was much older. At first, he seemed perfect, charming, attentive, as if I were the only person in the world. But soon, the charm faded. His love turned dark, possessive, controlling, obsessive. When I finally decided to end it, I thought everything would be over. But that was only the beginning. The breakup wasn't peaceful. There were screams, tears, desperation, threats. He begged me not to leave him, promising he would change. But I didn't believe him. I blocked his calls and messages. I changed my number. I moved out. But he always found a way to reach me. At first, it was constant messages, texts every hour, late-night phone calls, gifts left at my workplace. I thought he was just a heartbroken ex, but then he started to show up. I would see him in crowds, at stores, once, standing outside my building, waiting for me. I stopped going out alone. I felt like every step I took was being watched. I moved again. I changed jobs. I changed my phone number multiple times. I deleted all my social media. I asked my friends not to post anything about me. I tried to live in the shadows. But no matter what I did, he always found me. The paranoia grew. I started wondering if someone close to me was helping him, or if the phone company was leaking my data. I didn't know who to trust anymore. One night, I was walking home alone when I felt eyes burning into my back. I turned around, and there he was, standing beneath a flickering street lamp, smiling. He didn't say a word. He just stared. I ran inside, heart pounding. Then, a letter appeared under my door. No name, no signature. Just those chilling words. No matter where you hide, I'll always find you. I reported it to the police multiple times. They told me that without clear threats or evidence, there was nothing they could do. I felt trapped in a nightmare with no escape. A year passed. His behavior became bolder, closer, more threatening. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. My work started to suffer. I was disappearing. Desperation drove me back to the police. This time, they listened. Weeks later, the terrifying truth came to light. He worked at the National Tax Office. He was using his position to illegally access my personal information. Every address changes, every new job, every new phone number. He knew everything. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a coincidence. It was surveillance. When they arrested him, I felt a mix of relief and fear. 5 years running from someone who knew every detail of my life. The trial was quick. He was found guilty and sentenced. Seeing him in handcuffs, hearing the judge's ruling, for the first time in years, I could breathe again. I got my freedom back, but the scars remain. And this is what I want you to remember. When someone becomes obsessed with you, there is no safe place, nowhere to hide, no escape, until justice steps in. I survived to tell.